And if I find out you guys are giving this girl a hard time, ooh, I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna fight you. You evil Twitter demons. You crazy fandom. Stay out of her DMs.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but good job, everybody. We've grown. Yes! This is actually good news. For once, we were a little bit normal on the internet, and I'm considering that a win. I'm sorry. Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're talking about Hudson Williams. You know, Shane Hollander from Heated Robbery. He has been everywhere over the past couple of months post the show coming out and has become sort of a heartthrob for many people. And along with becoming a heartthrob, he's also sort of become a gay icon for playing Shane Hollander, a DL closeted gay man, on the show Heated Robbery. And as there usually is when it comes to people playing queer roles, there's been a lot of speculation around his sexuality, whether or not he's actually gay, bisexual, or just straight. The internet has sort of been doing their PI work to figure out what's tea, like what's actually going on here. And different sides of the internet are going to tell you different things, right? Because you have the side of the internet that's super gung-ho with the belief that, like, yes, he is our gay king, he just can't say it yet, but like, we know what's tea. We know he's one of us. And then you have the other side of the internet that's like, it's not really our business. He'll let us know when he lets us know. But until then, like, shout out to him. With both of these groups kind of sitting in the realm of like just waiting for new information, wanting to confirm what Hudson Williams' sexuality is, which for one is kind of odd, but is a larger nuanced conversation when we want to talk about like queer representation on screen and off screen when it comes to people playing queer roles. But we're gonna get into that later. And as of a few days ago for Valentine's Day, Hudson kind of gagged everyone when he went public with his longtime girlfriend. Yes, that's right, Heated Rivalry stands. Hudson does like girls, or at the very least likes girls. And when I initially saw this news, I was kind of like, okay, because I try not to be super parasocial online, but I also did hold my breath a lot because this confirmation, usually we've seen this play out before. When we get confirmation like this, especially when it comes to a fandom that has such a strong general parasocialness, like a true standum like the Heated Robbery standum does, there was bound to be some backlash with everyone's fave and the heartthrob of the moment coming out with a girlfriend in the sense of being taken and no longer single, but also with a girlfriend in the sense that like he is not solely gay. I don't know why I put gay in quotes, to be honest, but like he's not like gay. He hasn't confirmed his sexuality publicly. So bisexuality, queerness, pansexuality is all on the table. But the public knows now what he and his girlfriend have known all along is that he is not gay. And I was ready for the internet to be up in flames with the queerbaiting allegations. You know how the typical internet discourse rumor mill starts going whenever things like this in the past have happened. But to my surprise, at least on my corners of the internet, everyone was really chill about this. And before I go on, you let me know in the comments if you've seen otherwise. I've seen a lot of general Hudson Williams hate, but not specifically about the relationship. In fact, I've seen quite the opposite, with a lot of people coming to the defense of Hudson Williams, telling people to back off and like not be weird on the internet, despite there not being, or at least me not seeing, a lot of backlash to begin with. And there may be many different reasons behind this, but for right now, I'm taking this as a win. Like, shout out to us, because this is truly progress. Because as we know, previously, and when I say previously, I mean up until very recently, the parasocial dynamic with internet people and their audiences, just in general when it comes to celebrities having partners, but specifically when it comes to male celebrities who are seen as heartthrobs having partners, the internet gets very weird and hostile towards whoever that girl is, and honestly, whoever that person is, because, you know, that's our man. Like, what are you doing posted up with my man who don't know who I am? Like, just because he knows your name and body does not mean that he's not my man too. So what are you doing saying that you're his girlfriend? Like, rally the troops, we're going to war. Like, that's really how it used to be. Like, I'm thinking every time Harry Styles got confirmed to be with somebody, Taylor Lautner back in the day, basically anyone that had a major fan base consisting of the girls and gays, there would be a lot of pushback and people would get very weird around the girl. Going as far as doxing the girlfriend, setting her threats, telling the celebrity that they're stating that they're too good for her, and just generally being weird. But this time around, everyone seems to be keeping their cool. Everyone seems to be normal for the most part, which again, I love. But the other conversation that I'm seeing pop up isn't to do specifically with Hudson and his girlfriend's relationship, more so to do with what Hudson necessarily represents for his role as Shane Hollander in Heated Rivalry. And that is, I'm sorry, the tried and true conversation around queerbaiting. According to them.com, as with many terms with largely social media-driven origins, the origin and meaning of queerbaiting are nebulous. One dictionary defines it as the practice of implying non-heterosexual relationships or attraction in a TV show, for example, to engage or attract an LGBTQ audience or otherwise generate interest without ever actually depicting such relationships or sexual desires. And the article goes on to provide an example of think the vaguely sapphic police procedural Rizzoli and Isles, I'm sorry if I butchered that, whose creators admitted to playing up the tension between the main characters in order to attract queer fans. Its usage goes far beyond TV shows and movies though. These days, just about anyone who's seen as making themselves seem like they're LGBTQ+, when they're not, can be accused of queerbaiting. And personally, I feel like the term queerbaiting is played out and has essentially lost all meaning because people seem to just use it to fit whatever narrative they want, like the word gaslighting, there are definitions for things, words mean things. You can't just say that a word that sounds right means this thing when it does not. And at the end of the day, I hate to defend straight men, especially straight men in queer positions, but real life people cannot queerbait. Just because an actor is playing a role that you really resonate with does not mean that if their identity doesn't fully match up to the role that they're playing, that doesn't mean that they queerbaited you. And I know that I previously made a video talking about should straight actors play queer roles, and my thoughts and opinions have evolved since that video. But one thing that I think is really consistent is that having these queerbaiting witch trials don't really help anybody and make everyone's experience so much worse. Both us as fans and also the actual actors that we are accusing of queerbaiting, because there's nothing good that comes out of this. And we've seen this play out before. Specifically, if we want to talk about examples of actors getting queerbaiting allegations while playing queer characters on a show, look no farther than Kit Connor, where after the success of Heartstopper, the fans essentially forced Kit Connor to out himself as bisexual because of all the backlash that he was getting for not confirming his sexuality off it.
Heartstopper star Kit Connor says he was forced to come out as bisexual due to queerbaiting allegations, but we need to talk about the origins of the term and how it's since evolved. Earlier this month, Kit Connor was called out after a video of him holding hands with a female co-star circulated on social media. People quickly accused him of being straight and therefore queerbaiting by playing a bisexual character.
And given that we're in a similar situation now with the Heated Rivalry Boys, it's nice to know that the voices aren't as loud, but I'm still seeing so much discourse about this. Again, I am glad that we are learning. And also, I think a large part of this is that the audience of Heated Rivalry does skew a little bit older just because of the nature of the content. So I'm hoping that because the audience is older, that we're a little bit more normal and not as chronically unhinged online as we used to be when we were younger. Because again, there have been tons of other examples of queer baiting allegations really just ruining things for everyone. I know I mentioned him before, but Harry Styles, his sexuality has long been speculated upon. And at this point, I think fans realize that y'all ain't really gonna get a confirmation. If you see someone on his arm, then you'll know. But until then, ciao. Good luck.
So, Harry made his first public appearance since June, I think, of last year. And we're back with the a queerbaiting discourse. And, because it's been so long since he's made a really big public appearance, I kind of forgot how exhausting that whole queerbaiting argument is. Because
people have been skeptical about him for a long time, saying things like he's not confirming or denying because he wants to profit off of being palatable by an LGBTQ audience and to have that standum. And I can understand that for certain things, but I think in this case that isn't necessarily the case. And if at the end of the day he's creating an environment where us queer people can feel safe and that's an environment for us, what's the harm in that? And two, again, who someone is laying with is none of anyone's business but that person who's laying with them.
So why in our year 2023 are we still so obsessed with celebrity sexualities? It's not 2016 anymore. What's up with this? This has been happening for years. This has been happening for so long.
And then more recently, there was the whole Billie Eilish of it all. Remember when she came out with Lunch? And then everyone was speculating about her sexuality and being is she straight? Is she gay? What is she? What's tea? Bisexuality does not exist. And people were calling her a queer baiter for having this song about eating a girl for lunch and then being spotted with a man. Again, there is duality here. As we've seen, we've seen this many times before. There's some duality. There is more than just two options here. It's called the leg booty community because there is a leg, a booty, a T, and a coot. None of that actually made sense, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now let's get into the bigger conversation around not only just Hudson Williams and him coming out as someone who's attracted to women, but just generally the conversation around do actors, public figures, or whatever owe you their sexuality? And especially when they're playing gay or queer roles. And I think this is such a nuanced conversation. Again, we've talked about this in a whole other video before, but I do think my opinions have evolved. I won't say that they necessarily changed 180, but I think there's more context to them now.
Stop casting straight people as queer characters.
Okay, as someone who's a fan of the show Glee, which they directly called out, I really wanted to weigh in on this. While I completely understand the importance of reserving queer spaces for queer actors in Hollywood, especially in the writer's room, I have yet to hear one person tell me how to do that without putting pressure on the actors to come out if they are closeted or unsure of their sexuality.
And I'll say this, I do think that there is something special and just so right when queer actors are able to play and tell queer stories. And I think there's a certain talent and accuracy and general representation that comes with that, because truly who's going to tell a story better than someone who's actually lived the experience? At the same time though, how do you distinguish that? For real, you know, how is that something that you necessarily distinguish? Like that's an HR violation to be like, you gay? Yes, no? Okay, cool. You can work here. Because it's not like something like race or gender where there are more definitive physical attributes to distinguish that. You really can't tell someone's sexuality so people can lie all the time. I do wholeheartedly believe though that like if you're going to tell a queer story, you need to have, if not queer actors, then queer writers, directors, like someone behind the camera orchestrating everything so that it is an accurate representation. But when it comes to actors specifically, we need to get to a point where like, sure, straight actors can play queer characters, but then on the flip side, we need just as many openly gay or openly queer actors be able to fill straight roles. Because I think so often, I mentioned this in the other video, but like straight people are applauded for being able to play queer characters and seen as like a career stretch. And like there's such a good actor for being able to go there and are able to take that role and then come back from it and still have a fruitful career. If you're outwardly queer, so often you're just typecast. And if you're not playing a queer character, they're not going to cast you in anything else. They're not going to cast you as a straight male lead, as a heartthrob, because of whatever biases they have going on. You have to be an extremely masculine presenting gay person in order to be considered for those roles. I'm thinking Jonathan Bailey, I'm thinking Judy Gatwa, I'm thinking Pablo Pascal. Like there's a certain look that you need to have that I think is so unfair. And until there is some parity there with like the opportunities, I am handing out some side eyes of the industry. And a quote from Dove Cameron, she states that even within the queer community, people are very heavy on labels. Cameron added, you have to define yourself, you have to know what it is, you have to show us proof. If we have that issue within the community, we have quite a ways to go before we're not feeling that from the world. And that kind of is the crux of the queerbaiting conversation, is that at its root, it's just repackaged biphobia, because to hand out queerbaiting allegations is to discount the existence of, for someone to be attracted to both men or women or just people in general. And just because those people aren't fitting into the narrative that you are assuming them to be, does not mean that they are A, bad people, B, lying to you, or C, queerbaiting. Like again, by and large, I feel like we've made a lot of progress when it comes to how we act around public figures coming out with their sexuality or not. There is though still definitely a long ways to go. And I, for one, am just glad that Hudson Williams was able to avoid some lashings here, because girl, y'all been letting him have it for everything else.